They laughed at first, the kind of laugh that doesn't belong to joy, but to arrogance. The crowd inside the training compound had gathered in a semicircle, boots pressing into the gravel, arms crossed, jaws tight with anticipation. A civilian girl stood at the center, small, quiet, hair pinned back like she didn't belong. A borrowed uniform hung loosely on her shoulders. Someone muttered under their breath, just loud enough for the others to hear. They called her a student, only a student. And then came the sharper words, cutting through the heavy August air. She'll never make it. The insult rolled over her without a flinch. She didn't answer, didn't defend herself. She simply adjusted her stance, eyes fixed forward, steady as stone. What none of them could see, not yet, was the weight of the years behind that silence. One of the Navy SEAL, broad-shouldered and worn from real combat, took a step forward, rifle in hand. He looked her over with disdain, as if the earth itself would crumble before she could last a single second in their world. The circle tightened, the mockery burned hotter. She stood alone, until something unexpected happened. The SEAL paused. His gaze flickered, not to her face but to her hands. Hands that bore scars no textbook could teach. Something about her stillness unsettled him. He shifted his grip, exhaled, and with a motion that stunned even his comrades, he backed away and offered her his rifle. The crowd went still. The laughter died. Her story had not begun here in this compound, but years earlier, in the desert where sand carried the copper scent of blood and loss. She had once worn the uniform not as a borrowed garment, but as skin. The battlefield was her classroom. She remembered the weight of the helmet pressing into her brow, the dry taste of dust clinging to her tongue, the endless roar of distant mortars. She had not been a commander, nor someone decorated in front of cameras. She had been a medic, the one who ran towards screams no one else could bear to hear. It was there, in that endless expanse of silence and violence, that she learned the language of sacrifice. She remembered the trembling hands of a young Marine she had tried to save, his whisper drowned by the crack of gunfire. She had pressed her palm against his wound, felt his last heartbeat fade against her skin. No textbooks, no lectures. Only the raw exchange between life and death, where every second mattered and every mistake carved itself into memory. When she came home, the medals were tucked away in a box no one opened. Her scars were buried beneath sleeves. And when she walked into the training compound, the label of student was all they chose to see. The system was unkind to those who carried quiet dignity. Rules spoke louder than sacrifice, and titles outweighed experience. The instructors said she was there to observe, not to prove, to take notes, not to stand among them. They stripped her name of its history and folded her into anonymity. But the SEAL gesture, offering his weapon, stepping back, shifted the air. The balance of the moment tilted. Some scoffed, muttering that it was a waste of time. Others crossed their arms more tightly, unwilling to acknowledge what their silence confessed, that something unexplainable was unfolding before them. She accepted the rifle with both hands, not as a prize, but as a burden she had once carried before. The metal was cool against her skin, familiar as an old wound. Her silence deepened, heavier than words, more unshakable than pride. She didn't need to prove anything. She only needed to stand. The disrespect escalated in small, sharp ways. A smirk here, a dismissive shake of the head there. Fanny. One voice rose above the rest, mocking her stance, questioning her strength. Still she did not answer. The weight of her silence was unbearable to those who could not understand it. Then came the turning point. The SEAL who had given her the rifle stepped back further until he stood beside her instead of against her. His posture changed. The others noticed. His silence was no longer disdain. It was respect. Slowly, deliberately, he removed his helmet and tucked it under his arm. And then, as if drawn by something larger than pride, two more lowered their rifles. Another unclasped his vest. One by one the circle broke. The air thickened with something sacred. They realized the truth that their arrogance had blinded them to. She was not merely a student. She was a survivor of wars they had only studied. Her silence was not weakness, it was remembrance. A voice in the back whispered the line that would travel far beyond those gravel grounds. repeated in barracks and mess halls for years to come. Some battles are won in silence. The moment crystallized, unshakable. No apology was spoken aloud, but apologies lived in the eyes of those who had doubted her. When the session ended, no one dared to laugh again. Instead, they stood in quiet rows, not commanded, not ordered, but compelled by honor itself. A silence fell that was not mocking but reverent. She placed the rifle back in the SEAL hands, and for a heartbeat he hesitated, unwilling to reclaim what had been transformed in her grip. Her words, when they finally came, were few but immortal. Respect is not given, it is carried. The circle dispersed slowly, every step heavier with the weight of realization. In the weeks that followed, her story became less about the day she was mocked, and more about the moment silence spoke louder than arrogance. Veterans shared it, families whispered it, young recruits repeated it in hushed tones before their first deployment. She was remembered not as a student, but as the embodiment of endurance. And for those who had once called her less, the memory of standing in that circle remained an unhealed scar. At the heart of it, the story was not about winning or losing, not about rank or recognition. It was about the quiet kind of strength that endures when all else falls away, the kind that does not shout to be heard, because it carries the echoes of the fallen in every heartbeat. The lesson spread beyond the base, beyond the fences of the compound, into living rooms and classrooms, into the conversations of strangers who had never worn a uniform but understood dignity when they saw it. Silent heroes walk among us. They are not always saluted, not always recognized, but their presence shifts the air around them. She was one of them. Her legacy became a reminder for all who listened that honor does not always announce itself in rank or medals. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet refusal to break, in the unshakable stillness of a survivor who has already walked through fire. To this day, some still whisper of that afternoon on the gravel, when a Navy SEAL stepped back, laid down his pride, and offered his rifle to a woman they once dismissed as only a student. And for those who hear it now, let it be more than just a story. Let it be a reminder to pause, to look closer, to honor the unseen scars and unspoken battles carried by those around us. Because sometimes the greatest strength is silent. Sometimes the deepest courage needs no defense. And sometimes the only response to dignity is reverence. So wherever you are watching from, take a moment to share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your thoughts, honor the silent heroes you've met, and remember that the quietest voices often carry the loudest truths. And if you carry scars of your own, know this: the world may not always see them, but silence remembers. And silence, when carried with honor, is never empty.